I know what work needs to go into this station, and it's very unfair for you to come and say, take this position and the responsibility of it without the
remuneration.
For it. It didn't make sense. And because I don't know how to settle, I said no. And in 5 days, I didn't have a job. And it was one of those difficult things to understand. And I was asking God, I thought I was at the peak of everything. I've got my knowledge right. I even gone back to school, did my master's. What is happening here?
Hey everybody, my name is Angie Murenga. You're watching Just Angie. It's Lifestyle Thursday, and we continue our conversation with Sheila. So I wanted to talk about your career, because your career has many ups and downs.
Yes, it does.
But it's like it's either redoing something, and whether it's rebooting and rebirthing to something new. But it really has. You had a most illustrious career. So maybe we can just talk about that.
Okay. Well, started out as a singer. I'm glad you remember.
Yes, Nikki, I remember, yes.
Yes, and I remember when I started working on radio, one of the bosses said, why aren't you going by the name Nikki? Because people know you as Nikki. And the boss at that time, it's something which I've always remembered to this time. And he said, his station is as big as the presenters. He's not working with someone trying to build a name. But I told him, there's something about Sheila and there's something about Nikki. Nikki is not a radio presenter. So he looked at me and figured, okay, let's see where you're going to go with this. I'll give you 3 months and then we'll come back to the drawing board. And in 3 months, a girl who had no experience on radio was the second most listened to woman in Kenya.
That is so profound.
And I was not on a breakfast show.
Really? Was it on drive then?
It was on mid-morning.
Mid-morning. Actually 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's how it stayed for close to four years. Then in 2004, they had what do they call it? I remember I was going in for an appraisal, but it was actually I was going to be fired, and I didn't understand. I thought I was doing everything right. I'd even gotten the promise of moving up into an assistant programs controller position, but that never happened. But within a week, Phil Matthews from Nation called and said, I hear you're looking for a job. And I said, I don't even know if I'm looking yet. I'm still processing what just happened. And he said, come over. And I was on a drive show with Farid Kimani then. It was the first time I was working with someone on air, which wasn't very easy, but somehow we figured it out. Then Farid was gone and Phil looked at me and said, you can do more than just present. And he became this incredible refuge of, you are more than just the voice.
That's amazing.
You can program a station. You can learn how to sell. You can learn about sponsorships. I mean, I had been working in radio for 4 years, but in that place it was, you can only come this far. And suddenly it was, go. In fact, he'd give me manuals to read and then test me. So every day I'd be coming in to work earlier, not because I'm posing and chilling with people, but no, because I've got a quiz.
Those are the kind of leaders I love.
Yes, and I will always hold him in such esteem, because at one point one of the TV heads came and said they were now going to have a weather girl, and we've seen this one once in a while on the corridors, but we're not so sure. Can she come and audition? Phil said, no, you are not a weather girl. I have not put all this in you so you can become a weather girl. And I did it. But when Tusker Project Fame came, he said, yeah, that you can do.
That you can do. I loved you. I loved the way you hosted Tusker Project Fame. I really
And I wasn't even the show's first choice. Again.
Really? They had another first choice?
Yes, they did. And I remember sitting home and we were watching the show because this had never happened. And so we watched and I thought, oh, okay, let's watch the show. Immediately after the show, my phone rang. Sheila, can you come tomorrow morning? We need to speak with you. And I said, about what? Is it about the presenter position? Don't you have a presenter? The lady on the phone wouldn't talk. But the next morning I went in and there was a South African director who said, yep, this is the woman who's going to do the show. And in a week's time, I'd never done a live TV. I'd never done TV anyway. And you're here the whole day with earpieces where you can hear someone speaking, and at the same time you're speaking. The confusion of it all.
That one I always think about. Isn't it confusing when somebody's speaking here and you're trying to speak
and then
out
you've got
here?
your script and you're speaking, and he's telling you to edge a little bit. So it's almost like splitting your brain in 6 billion pieces.
So women. So he's directing you what to do.
So he's directing, and we did that the whole day. I'd never done this. By evening, something happened when the show started. When the theme tune began, doo-doo, the comms died. I was out in the water alone. I didn't have a co-host because my co-host at the time was in South Africa working on another show. And I had to host that, my first on-air live show.
Live.
I did it solo. And why? Because I had to remember what we were doing during the day. You were on this camera, look here, then turn. Look here and remember. At the end of the show, the director had tears in his eyes and he said, I've never seen anything like this. Are you sure you've not done TV before? I said, no. Today was the first day. And that opened 5 years of hosting that show.
That's amazing.
And radio just kept growing and growing and growing. I think I'm one of very few people who can run a certain software, radio playout software called RCS. I think there may be about 5 or 6 or 7 in Africa who can actually run that system and run it without sleepless nights. And I look back, I remember when I got, when Nation also laid me off, you've come in from training in South Africa,
so
you've got a great television show that's running, and so you think you're at your peak, and they offered me a job to run the station, but there were complications with the offer, and I said, no, I'm not going to settle for this offer for the sake of a title. I know what this title means. In fact, I said, it's not about the title. For me, I know what work needs to go into this station, and it's very unfair for you to come and say, take this position and the responsibility of it without the
remuneration.
Yeah, for it. It didn't make sense. And because I don't know how to settle, I said no. And in 5 days, I didn't have a job. And it was one of those difficult things to understand. And I was asking God, I thought I was at the peak of everything. I've got my knowledge right. I even gone back to school, did my master's. What is happening here? And in those moments, there was nothing, Pastor Angie. There was just silence.
Told me that. It was just silence.
Silence. And you begin to doubt yourself and everything that you've always leaned to or looked to for support, it literally was stripped away one by one. First, my brother used to be my neighbor. He moved. My mom was always there, but she also had work pressures going on. So she was also not as hands-on as I would have liked her to be. Then the church that I used to worship at, I just felt, I'm only good for when there's a contribution or one of them reached out and said, can we have an interview on television? I said, have you not checked? I'm not even there. It's been 2 months. It just felt like even that was taken. And the final straw for me is because, you think it's fine. I don't need anyone. I can do this. I will pick myself up and make this happen. Then the back complications begin. You can barely walk. You can barely sit, Pastor Angie. And you're looking at God and you're saying, you've taken everything. What am I supposed to sit here and do? And God says, I've not taken everything. I've just reminded you of your place and who I am. So because as I was lying there was a TV station calling me and asking me to go back on air in the morning to do what I've done. And God said, if you work for man, you know what it's like. You know how this is going to play out. You're going to be 100% all in, and then boom, one day, it's all out. Work for me instead. And it's been 3 years. Starting an online channel, figuring out this new media space that I used to think belonged to socialites. No, it's called social media. It's media.
It's a media. Media.
Online, you and the television station, you and the newspaper, you and CNN, you and whatever. You're equal. On that space, what are you bringing to the table? What is this that God has put you through? And I'm still growing and still learning, because I'm not going to say I have the answers for social media. But God always wakes me up and says, you had radio, you learned from the masters, you learned from television, you worked with these directors. There's some things which won't change across the channels. Bring those forward. And God said to me, you help people connect the dots. So even your channel, it's not about your shoes and your hair and your makeup. No. There's something more.
People connect the dots.
Help people. There are people who need to be somewhere, and nobody will give them the time of day.
And that's what I love about Sheila Lives Out Loud, is that it's not everybody trying to just interview celebrities. It's everyday people with everyday challenges or victories,
Yeah.
or they've come out of something. But it's amazing. But for you, even as I look at you and I listen to you, I feel like you're a diamond. You know how diamonds become diamonds because of pressure?
Yes.
That's what I feel, because I feel like pressure always comes at the right time for you, and I think because God is controlling it, so it comes at the right time.
Yeah.
And it's always you're doing well, you're at the top of your game,
Yeah.
and then you're like, this thing comes out of left field, and you're like, what?
I wasn't ready, and God says, I know, but I was. And there's something good about this jab, about this blow, about this low, and even you might be thinking it's a low, but it's not, because I kid you not, a year after I began to figure out my place and what I needed to do, Larry Madowo was still at Nation at the time, and he invited me to speak about my new direction, my new channel, what I was doing. And I remember standing outside the radio station after, and it was dark. It was pitch black. There was nothing was going on. And I felt like God asked me, what do you see? And I said, I don't see anything. God, is there someone I need to see in here? And I'm like, it's time to go. And he says, no, tell me, what do you see? He asked me 3 times. Sometimes I just don't listen. But what do you see? The 3rd time, and I said, God, I don't see anything. Is there someone in there I should see? And he said, you see nothing. I said, I see nothing. In 5 days, the following week, the station shut down.
Really?
Yes. And I felt God was telling me, this was not going to go anywhere for you. I gave you a year head start.
Yes,
so that you can figure out this new platform you need to be on. Because I'm not gonna lie, Sheila, if you're not on this new medium, you're not going anywhere. And you've grown up in traditional media, and the only way you are going to be on new media is if you had no other media to sit in.
You had no other choice.
And so you had to go. And I'll give you one example. Instagram, I left, it's interesting we're talking at this time because it's 4-year anniversary. I only had 5,000 followers because I thought this was for kids and things on Instagram. And now we're at 950.
Is it 950?
No, it's 950,000.
You're almost at 1 million.
Yes.
Wow.
And it's just simply saying, tell the truth about who you are. Remind people about God. And reminding people about God is not saying, you guys, you're all going to perish and go to hell.
I love the way you put in your scriptures, you throw in something something about light, you'll do a meme. It's just being there.
It's just being there and just saying,
with
this,
people.
If he's speaking to me, and God says he uses he'll even use the rocks. So if he's given me these pages, I will honor him in them. I will speak what I know. And most importantly, I will use those channels to open doors for others, because people are going places.
It's so true.
And maybe someone's journey is slowed down because of you. And one day God's going to say, was it that hard to just
do it, to come speak about them, open doors, and give opportunities. I love it.
It's not always about you. You have everything.
Wow.
You have everything. Look at you.
Focus on somebody else.
Focus on someone else. It's not just about you.
That's powerful.
That's
powerful. So with you, I see patterns, because every time I train, I tell people look out for your patterns. It's very important to see what are my patterns. So for you, I think like everything is going well, then sort of everything doesn't go well, but it's always a shift.
Yes,
it's always shifting you to something else, because I want to come back and talk about the shift, because your shift, it's like a rebirth. It's like you've blossomed again and you're off again. But when I hear your journey, it's happened different times. It's happened at different times. And then for me, if I was watching this, don't settle. No, don't settle, because settling will get you to one direction. You become this one-trick pony. No, God in his infinite wisdom and ability and kindness and goodness did not just give us one thing. He gave us everything. I mean, I always go back to the Garden of Eden, and I think they had everything. These ones. They had everything. They didn't just have one coconut tree and then one bad tree. And it's the same for us today. You've come in here with so many other things which God is saying, no, Mama, this is good, but there's this. And so I'm back in the studio with an album as well. You are?
Yes.
That's exciting. I like that. And I like that you always go and reinvent yourself, you know.
Yeah.
And, well, God does it.
Yes.
But there's always I'm feeling like even that butterfly effect, you know. Like the butterfly is it's an egg, it's a larva, it's a pupa, then it's this beautiful butterfly.
Yeah.
And at every stage,
Yeah.
nothing, it doesn't look like, the butterfly doesn't look like the egg, the egg,
Exactly.
larva, but all these are stages of development. So that's amazing that there's another, because I just keep hearing that word, a rebirth.
Yes.
Or when you put pressure on a diamond, on coal,
Yeah.
and it becomes this diamond.
Then you have no choice. You have no choice, Angie. And for anybody who's going through that pressure, you have no choice. You can't give up.
Just take
There's
the
no
pressure.
option. You have to take it. Because what you will be after is so, you won't even remember the pressure.
Yeah.
You won't.
Yeah. The light, there's light at the end of that tunnel, you know. There's, I think I like that, you know. Pressure, don't settle, trust God in the process,
Yeah.
and understand your patterns. Look at your patterns. What happens, and why do certain things happen to you? Because each of us has a very individual pattern. You've been watching Lifestyle Thursday. See you next Thursday. Bye.